his Achilles in the home opener versus the Bills. Could a second Super Bowl be on the horizon for the star quarterback? Hall of Famer Kurt Warner has a strong take about what it would mean for his legacy. Take a listen.
Aaron, is one of the best quarterbacks our league has ever seen. But he doesn't get into the greatest conversation until he gets to another Super Bowl. The New York Jets, who have never won, and this could maybe set Aaron, in kind of a different category.
So many friends today. I don't know what to do with myself. Super Bowl champion Damien Woody in the house. Great to see you, sir.
Same.
And the queen, Kimberly.
Hey.
How we doing?
I'm good.
Stephen A., you want to say hi to your friend?
Notorious Liberace. What's going on, big boy? What's going on, baby?
Liberace.
I like that suit, baby. It is pretty fly, if I should say so. What's up, Kimberly? How you doing, girl? How's everything going? How's everything?
You gonna come to work? You gonna come here? Where? Why are you hiding? Are you scared? Why are you not here, Stephen? Why are you not here? Answer this question.
Do you have any idea how ridiculous you sound when you say, "Am I coming to work?" When I'm always working 7 days a week. I would add, thank you very much.
Okay, Brick. I just miss you. That's all.
Right.
Don't worry. I just miss you.
Well, you know what? I miss you too. I'm sorry. See, I usually would know that, but Molly has jaded me just a little bit. Molly has jaded me a little bit.
I really. Well, how do I get
I would assume.
I should have just started with I
normally
miss you.
Can we get all
accuse
of
me
it?
of being arrogant.
to get to the conversation bag? Some people have a service animal, whatever.
The victim right there. She punches all the time. Boy, go for it. Ain't nobody stopping you.
Selfie, settle down. Serious other Super Bowl to be in the GOAT conversation. Seriously, Stephen A.
I don't even think that puts him in the GOAT conversation. Tom Brady's got 7. Patrick Mahomes has 3. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been to a Super Bowl since 2010. So even if he were to win another Super Bowl, that doesn't put him in the conversation. Now, I believe until Patrick Mahomes came along, he was the greatest talent that I ever saw at the quarterback position, the greatest talent. But not the greatest winner, of course not. And when you look at the fact that his talent is spectacular as it is as a quarterback in the National Football League, hasn't gotten him to a Super Bowl, let alone winning one, in 14 straight years. I can't defend that.
Okay, so this is what I want to talk about. Because here's the thing about a GOAT conversation. Now, I'm going to speak very generally. I'm going to speak from both sides of the argument because I see both sides of the argument, but I don't really hold a strong opinion personally either way. It's something that I'm still kind of figuring out because the whole GOAT conversation, whether specifically we always talk about the GOAT, whether it be in basketball or football, right? For the last 20 years of our lives, we've had these conversations of the GOAT of Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Tom Brady, and Tom Brady was kind of going unopposed for the most part. They just kind of had the question, is he the GOAT? And then it was just like solidified as a GOAT. I mean, they talked about Manning and Aaron Rodgers, but it still had a different energy to it, honestly, just because Tom Brady kept winning so much. And then, of course, obviously now for the last, realistically, 5 years, maybe 4 years, it's been, okay, Patrick Mahomes versus Brady, or will Patrick Mahomes pass Brady? And everyone has now looked at the lens of Patrick Mahomes as, will he be the GOAT? Is he already the GOAT, right? So that it's just, you can't talk about Patrick Mahomes without saying he's the GOAT, he's going to be the GOAT, however we want to kind of filter it through that lens. So then that's the question that I have to ask then. Is it just championships? Or is it that you need to have a base level of talent, right? A base level of skill set, whatever that may be. And I'm going to try to use such general players, not saying that they're obviously GOAT level. But let's say Alex Smith, perfect example, okay? A pretty darn good quarterback who can genuinely win some games. If he was part of just a great team, let's say he did play for the 49ers, but let's say he played for the modern day 49ers with Shanahan and was able to rip off 5 rings, 5 championships. Is he the GOAT? Is he in the GOAT? Right? Is he worthy of being in the GOAT category? Or is it, no, you need to actually show better skill set than him and you need to win? Because now what if we have a quarterback that's way better than an Alex Smith, like a Peyton Manning, right? Perfect example, Peyton Manning, who now won significantly less, but is clearly a better quarterback. But hey, Alex Smith has 4 or 5 rings in this example. Who's the GOAT? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because where does that number then of championships, like when does that come into play? Because that was, for much of my football fan career, right, watching football, it was always kind of said, and this was before I feel like Tom Brady probably got to like 6, 7, definitely before Tampa Bay, and probably before he won another couple with the Patriots. It was Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback, but Tom Brady's like the GOAT, or Tom Brady's the best winner. And again, so then what does greatest of all time mean? The greatest winner of all time, or the greatest athlete, the greatest player? What does it mean? Because there's a lot of people that believe that Patrick Mahomes is the better pure talent. And if that's the case, then why is he not already the GOAT then? So it's just this balance that no one really actually has an answer, because this whole conversation is also largely nonsense, right? It's just made up nonsense. No one actually really knows. I'm sure there is probably an even better player than Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady that we just never really got to see. Maybe he really only had a couple elite seasons and he got injured. I mean, who really knows? I don't. Maybe he never even made it to the NFL. He just played in Canada or something. Like, so again, it's just like, so what does it take? Because, and I pointed this out plenty of times, Tom Brady has won a handful of Super Bowls that you can't say that was Tom Brady's greatness. But then on the flip side, Tom Brady has also played unbelievably, amazingly well and then lost some Super Bowls. And the perfect example of that it will always forever be against the Philadelphia Eagles, where he threw for 10,000 yards and still lost. No one could point to Tom Brady as being the reason why they lost. So that's why the whole GOAT thing is, it's when you use rings as a reference point to why someone is the GOAT, that's tough. And again, how many rings then do you need? Because I remember watching a conversation before on the more recent side within the last couple of months for First Things First with Nick Wright and Chris Broussard. They were saying like you kind of need to have at least like 3 rings or 4 rings to be in this like GOAT conversation. That you don't need to have, like, in order to be the next GOAT or to surpass Tom Brady, you don't need to get 7 rings or 8 rings. But it also depends, because a lot of fans, a lot of diehard fans for Tom Brady will always point to Patrick Mahomes and saying, like, unless he gets to at least 7, he is not the GOAT. And even if he does, let's say he gets to 7, you better hope that he does it in the same amount of Super Bowls or the same amount of games. Otherwise, they'll be like, well, it took him an extra 5 years to get to 7, like whatever it may be. Because we see this in the conversation with Michael Jordan and LeBron James. The people who believe LeBron James is the GOAT will just say, well, listen, who cares? So he won an extra couple rings for Jordan. That doesn't mean anything. LeBron is clearly the better basketball player, and you know it. And from a pure talent perspective, he is better. And then the Jordan purists say, 6 for 6, baby. 6-0. Never lost in the finals. Your GOAT's never done that. So that conversation always goes back and forth. So I bring this all up to just kind of set the stage for like, well, so then where does that mean? What does that mean for Aaron Rodgers? Because Aaron Rodgers is obviously elite. Aaron Rodgers is obviously one of the best to ever do it. That's indisputable, right? We're not disputing that here. And if we are, I really have no idea what to say to you. So then do we hold his feet to the fire for not having a Hall of Fame coach like Patrick Mahomes has with Andy Reid, and not having a Hall of Fame coach like Tom Brady has with Bill Belichick? You know, like, what are we saying here? Does anyone believe that McCarthy is even remotely on the level of a Belichick or an Andy Reid? No. I'm very confident if Andy Reid was not, I always do this with the other, if we put Patrick Mahomes on a different team, I'm going to do this the other way around. I'm very confident if Mike McCarthy was the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, would they win a Super Bowl? Sure. Would they maybe win 2? Sure. Would they have the amount of success they have with Andy Reid? Absolutely, positively not. Would Mike McCarthy be good enough to develop Patrick Mahomes and help him become who he is? Absolutely not. There is a reason why Andy Reid is the highest paid coach There's a reason, okay? There's a reason. Because he elevates everyone. He elevates that offense. He's elevated Patrick Mahomes. And you know what? Bill Belichick elevated Tom Brady, whether it be through defense or helping him offensively. They had their weekly meeting that Tom Brady swears by. And I trust Tom Brady. Tom Brady has no reason to kind of make those statements at this point in his life. He doesn't need to emphasize those moments with Bill. He really doesn't. But he does. So I just think that Aaron Rodgers has not had that. Aaron Rodgers hasn't had great defenses over the years. He's had some weapons, he's had some offenses, but not on the level of what Patrick Mahomes has had with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, come on. Where's the true help and support? And I'm not trying to act like Aaron Rodgers has had just no one for years. That's not what I'm trying to say either. But to me, it's indisputable that the other two main GOATs, because I'm not even going to go too far back in time into like the 80s, 70s, any of these, Montana, any of these guys. I'm not, that's irrelevant to me, quite honestly. It's just completely different eras. And honestly, even this conversation is hard because I think the Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady conversation will always be difficult because it's two completely different eras. I think Patrick Mahomes' numbers will always eventually be higher than Tom Brady as long as he plays long enough because it's such a more offensively driven league with the actual fundamental rules changing to favor offense, that all these records, offensive records, will be broken. The quarterbacks will always look better and be able to achieve higher levels of individual success than older quarterbacks like the Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady's of the world. Like, that's just a fact. When the rules change, to me, it's very difficult. That's why even comparing numbers in basketball from LeBron James to Michael Jordan, it's like, it's different. It's not even apples to oranges. It's apples to rocks. So that's why you can't just look at the numbers. You can't just compare the numbers. Well, Patrick Mahomes did this and Aaron Rodgers did this. His passer rating is this. He has this amount of touchdowns. His number of interceptions. They play on completely different teams in different eras with different philosophies, with different rules in the NFL. So that's where, to me, you can look at the numbers. You can look at the teams that they played with and the levels of success they achieved, and also look at the tape, look at the eye test, look at the actual skill set themselves, and then kind of go from there. But it is interesting. And again, I'm not arguing that Aaron Rodgers is the GOAT, because honestly, it's not a super interesting conversation to have. I like the more meta conversation that I'm having with you right now, which is why I'm having it this way, where I'm just like, well, what is the GOAT? What is the GOAT? Seriously, because what is it then? How many rings do you need? Do you need to get the 7 rings or 8 rings to surpass Tom Brady as the GOAT? If you don't, then why is Aaron Rodgers not in that conversation? And then if we say, well, the threshold is 3 or 4, well, that's a made-up number. Where did we just make up that number from? Who got to pick? Well, once you get the 4 rings, then you could be considered GOAT. But if you only got 3, that's not enough. According to who? Who's making these rules? Stephen A? Woody? Colin Cowherd? Nick Ray? Broussard? Like, who? So it's just very interesting to me about this whole idea. And that's what I think Kurt Warner is being a little bit more liberal, and I respect that in that regard, where he's kind of saying, hey man, we know Aaron Rodgers is an unbelievably amazing talent. And if he now comes back from an Achilles tendon injury, plays for the Jets, who have done nothing for like 100 years, and he wins a Super Bowl, now with 2 completely different teams, in 2 completely different eras, that is darn impressive. And how can we not elevate his greatness even higher than that? Because that would be wildly impressive. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just a fascinating conversation to me. It really is. Because I'm just not sure how we define GOAT. It really depends to be person to person, honestly. And that's why I think those debates never die. That's why for literally the last 10 years in basketball, people have just been going back and forth, back and forth. And I was having this conversation with O'Shea, and it's like this whole idea that now these new quarterbacks that come in, whether it be CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams, whatever it may be, it's you gotta win rings. That's all what it is. That's all it's about. You gotta win rings, and you're not great unless you win rings. You got people who are trying to bring down Joe Burrow and Josh Allen saying that they're nothing because they haven't already won 3 Super Bowls. And it's like, well, that's nonsense. If CJ Stroud continues to ball out and plays just as great as we all think he will be, or Caleb Williams, and they win 1 or 2 Super Bowls, that means they just weren't as great as if they were fortunate enough to win 4 Super Bowls because maybe they would have had a better roster, better coach, better whatever. You just can't think like that. And we're just filter everything through those lenses now of who's the next GOAT, who's the next GOAT. It's always who's going to surpass someone. Patrick Mahomes, is he going to surpass Tom Brady? Some people believe he already has. And now Caleb Williams enters the league. Is Caleb Williams going to surpass Patrick Mahomes? It's just, we never look at these guys in their own kind of individual experience. And comparing what Caleb Williams is going to do with the Chicago Bears is just going to be vastly different than Patrick Mahomes getting drafted to Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Chris Jones, and on and on and on. It's just completely different experiences. So, to me, this conversation of who's the GOAT will always be flawed. It's a little bit easier, I think, in basketball because one player can do so much more than in football. A quarterback is wildly limited in a lot of ways. And again, the last thing I'll say is, with this is, a lot of people made excuses for Patrick Mahomes, right or wrong. I don't use the word excuses like a negative way. A lot of people say, oh, it's excuse, that's excuse. Excuses, reasons, all the same thing. So, but Patrick Mahomes' numbers were down. And if we want to blame the team, want to blame the lack of wide receivers or the drops, well, then you have to concede that Patrick Mahomes can't do it all himself, that he needs support. You have to concede that, well, then he was supported to help be successful. So all of those things matter. So when another player isn't able to achieve those levels of greatness, those levels of consistent Super Bowls, well, then you have to afford the same thing to these other players, whether it be CJ Stroud, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers. You have to say, well, hey, he had a terrible defense. What do you want him to do? Or, hey, who was his running back? His running back was averaging 80 yards a game, right? Like, we can do this forever. Who was his coach? But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think Aaron Rodgers should be in the GOAT conversation? And what do you think about just the GOAT conversation as a whole? How many rings do you need to be considered a GOAT? And where did that number come from? And do rings actually even really that matter? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.